So you want to travel New Zealand or Australia or even both, but you're not quite sure where to go, what works best and how to bring this all together. In this video I'll go through the 3 key questions you want to ask yourself to make the right decision on your New Zealand and Australia travel plans. Let's get started. Now, before we go through the 3 key questions, let me quickly explain why this decision confuses so many people. Both New Zealand and Australia are bucket list destinations. Both are safe, English speaking and have dramatic landscapes. So on surface they look pretty similar. But here's where it gets interesting. Australia is a continent, it's massive. New Zealand is compact but very seasonal. The climates and seasons don't align the way most people assume. So with this in mind, let's get into the 3 key questions. What kind of traveler are you? What experiences are you seeking? How do you want to travel? Let me break this down. If you're someone who wants dramatic scenery every single day, such as mountains and fjords, you enjoy walking and short hikes, and you don't necessarily need major cities, then New Zealand is hard to beat. The density of the landscape in New Zealand is simply unmatched. It changes rapidly, sometimes all in one day. Whether it's the drive via Haas Pass from central Otago to the west coast, or on the Milford Road through the Fiordland National Park. These are not just drives to get somewhere, there are highlights and key experiences. I've done many videos on those specific routes. Check them out in the playlist in the description box below. Australia offers a more vast scale kind of nature, dramatic deserts, reef and coastlines, but the distances between those highlights are much longer and season matters even more. I'll talk about that shortly in the second question. Now, what if dramatic scenery isn't your main priority? What if it's more about the lifestyle, the warm evenings, the beaches, the culture? Then Australia might be calling your name. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, the classic beach lifestyle, incredible wine region and local culture and arts. New Zealand has stunning beaches as well, but the climate is overall cooler. Also for lifestyle lovers like kangaroos, koalas, crocodiles and reef snorkeling you're after, then look no further than the northern and central Australia regions. The Great Barrier Reef is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. However, time matters enormously. More on that topic soon. So New Zealand wildlife is quite a different story. No dangerous animals, which is a genuine relief for many travelers. You've got rare native birds, whales, dolphins, penguins and albatross colonies in several locations. I've done some dedicated videos on the Kaikoura Whale Watch and the Dunedin wildlife options. Check them out in the description box below. And here's a big topic that's often the deciding factor on deciding New Zealand or Australia or both. Many travelers want to do scenic self-drive holidays either with a rental car or with a camper van. And this is a very different undertaking in Australia than it is in New Zealand. New Zealand is perfect for road trips. That's because your daily drives are typically 3 to 5 hours and pretty much every single one is very scenic. Connecting the islands is pretty much straightforward, either with a ferry ride or a short domestic flight. Australia road trips are absolutely possible and can be incredible, like the Great Ocean Road between Melbourne and Adelaide, but the distances are usually much longer and you need internal flights to cover those. Example, a camper van trip that takes 2 weeks to cover the South Island of New Zealand comfortably might only get you through one region in Australia. So this travel mode question is often a deciding factor that people underestimate. I've put some sample itinerary links in the description box below for you to download. Also, if you have any questions, put them into the comments box below. Now stay with me because question 2 is where most people get it completely wrong, and honestly getting this one right could save you from making a very expensive mistake. If you find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button below to stay in touch for more helpful travel videos to come. Also please tick that little like button below as it helps our channel to grow. Thank you very much. So here's the second question. When are your travel dates and how much overall time do you have? To be honest, this is often the first key issue travelers get wrong. The seasons in New Zealand and Australia can be vastly different to each other. In fact, there are some areas in Australia that are off limits during the summer season. So let's talk about the various seasons for each country. For New Zealand, the best time to travel is between October and April, even into May. That covers the spring, summer and autumn season. You get longer daylight hours and it's ideal for hiking. But here's what you need to understand. The New Zealand winter, so between June and September, is good if you are coming specifically for skiing. Otherwise, you're looking at short daylight hours, cold alpine conditions. Also, some of the hikes become inaccessible. In the South Island especially, you can have snow on the roads too. So if you're not coming for snow sports, do not choose a New Zealand winter for a first-time scenic hiking trip. Now you might be thinking, well, Australia is right next door, so the seasons must be similar. Actually, this is where most travelers get caught out. Even within Australia, the seasons and weather conditions differ very much from region to region. Australia does not have one best season for the entire country. This is a continent with completely different climate zones. Like South Australia, like Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania, Adelaide, and south of Perth, the best time is between November to April, so the summertime. That's great for beach lifestyle, wine regions and hiking in Tasmania. The northern and central Australian regions like Queensland, the Great Barrier Reef, Uluru, the Northern Territory, those are best from April till October. That's the dry season. You get lower humidity, clear reef visibility, comfortable temperatures. The wet season is from November to March, which brings high humidity, tropical storms and reduced reef water clarity. I know there's lots to consider, so I've done a number of videos on Australian season already, so check them out in the description box below. So let me give you a quick breakdown on key travel months. So if you're traveling between December and February, New Zealand and Southern Australia is excellent to visit. For the Northern Australia, not so much because it's hot, humid and has the rainy season. If you're traveling between July and August, these are the New Zealand winter months, so pretty much only for skiers. But for the Northern Australian territories, this is the perfect time to go to the Great Barrier Reef and visit Uluru in the outback. If you're traveling between April and May, now this is one of the smartest travel windows that most people don't realize. New Zealand is still in the autumn season. It's beautiful, golden colors, fewer people around, usually stable weather conditions. The Northern Australian regions have the dry season that's beginning, and it's still comfortable in the Southern Australian region. It's an ideal time to visit both countries, New Zealand and Australia. How about traveling between October and November? Another prime window. New Zealand is hitting the spring season, so it's excellent hiking, fresh scenery. Northern Australia is still in the dry season. Southern Australia has comfortable temperatures. Again, it's an excellent time to combine Australia and New Zealand in one trip. All right, we've covered the two first key points, but here's the third piece in the puzzle, and honestly, this is where it all clicks into place. So how to bring these locations all together? And here's the good news. This planning step becomes so much easier once you looked into the previous two questions. I always say it's all about locations and timing. So let's say you're traveling between November and April and you have 2 weeks time. Plus your main interest is hiking and dramatic scenery. Then my suggestion is to focus on New Zealand. Have 10 days in the South Island and the rest in the North Island. I got a detailed 14 days itinerary, North and South Island, in the description box below for you to download. But if your interest goes for both countries, New Zealand and Australia, here is what I suggest. Spend 3 nights in Sydney and get a taste for Australia, and then use the rest of your time in New Zealand. Now let's say you have 3 weeks time, similar interest in that time of the year, November to March. Spend 2 weeks in New Zealand and the rest of that time 1 week in the southern parts of Australia. Depending on your interests, you could do Melbourne, Adelaide. If you're interested into hiking, consider Tasmania. If you're into wildlife, I would highly recommend Kangaroo Island, which is incredible. But as mentioned before, I do not recommend to visit the northern regions of Australia because it's simply the wrong time of the year. And here's another thought: if you're purely into hiking and nature in that time frame for 3 weeks, you could focus entirely on New Zealand, 2 weeks in the South Island and 1 week in the North Island. This would be a fantastic trip. Now, what if your travel dates fall in the second part of the year? And this is where I see many people make the most expensive planning mistakes. So if you have 2 weeks time between April and November and your main interest is still hiking, then you could travel to New Zealand, but you want to use the April months and November months specifically. From mid-May onwards, you'll be getting colder temperatures and the daylight hours will be quite short. But this is actually the best time to focus on most regions in Australia, especially the northern ones. You could do the classic triangle: Sydney, Great Barrier Reef, and Uluru. It's best done from later April until early November. That's when you get the dry season up north, clear reef conditions and comfortable temperatures for the outback. For Tasmania though, the season is quite similar to New Zealand, so it's the colder time of the year. So with 3 weeks time in that kind of season between April and November, I would recommend to have 2 weeks in Australia and 1 week in New Zealand, such as the North Island. The North Island is generally milder in the winter season than the South Island, and you can visit places like Rotorua with a geothermal activity, the Coromandel Peninsula with the beaches, or the Bay of Islands. Those are really great locations during that time of the year. Now let's wrap this all up. So the overall key points are always the same, and they always come back to these 3 key questions. Number 1, what are your interests and your expectations, and how do you want to travel? Number 2, your overall time budget and when you actually will be traveling, the travel dates. Number 3, how do you bring it all together with the best locations based on the answers with the previous 2 questions. So don't forget to download the free travel planning sheets in the description box below. They include sample itineraries which will very much help your planning. Also, if you want to have a more detailed 3 weeks itinerary video in New Zealand and Australia, check this out up here. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.